Prime Property, your weekly real estate reckoner. I'm Nayanthara Rai, and this is what we have on the show today. A Rajya Sabha panel invites public comments for setting up India's real estate regulator. We run you through the main provisions and highlight the deficiencies in the proposed bill. From defunct mills to old factories to industrial land, builders in Chennai are buying it all to develop luxury housing. We find out if this is a good bet for home buyers. Over 300 structures in Bengaluru deemed illegal for encroaching lake beds. This could free up thousands of crores of land in the city. A real estate regulator. When is India going to have one? Well, this is the stage we are at 10 years after it was first conceptualized. The Real Estate Regulation and Development Bill 2013 has been approved by Cabinet and is now with a 21-member select panel of the Rajya Sabha. That panel has invited public comments till June 14th. We at Prime Property are carrying out a campaign to encourage as many citizens as we can to give their comments. Let's not be fence-sitters. You or your close ones have suffered due to numerous reasons like project delays, one-sided buy agreements, false advertising, etc., etc. This is an issue that affects all of us, and we must do our bit to ensure India's first real estate regulator is an effective one. The email on your screen is where you can send your comments. Let's remind you of some of the main provisions of the Real Estate Regulator Bill. First up, developers need to keep aside in an escrow account 50% of the customer advance, and that too within 15 days of receiving it. This is to ensure there is no diversion of funds and the projects actually get completed. The UPA government had suggested 70%. This 50% provision will effectively allow developers to continue their practice of diverting funds collected for a project towards land acquisition or other projects. For the buyers, the concerns regarding fund diversion will be higher. While a 50% lock-in sounds good on paper, in reality it could also cost the consumer a lot more. It may end up being inflationary. Here's why. It's likely to result in builders hiking prices to partially make up for the funds they can't access, as well as any foreseeable loss of interest. We need clarification on this inflationary angle. The bill now covers commercial real estate as well. Also, brokers and agents have been included under its purview and are effectively rendered punishable in case of non-compliance with the authorities and the tribunal's ruling. All under-construction projects have to be mandatorily registered within 3 months of setting up of the regulator, and developers cannot make any changes to original plans or the structural designs unless 2/3 of the customers give their consent. So builders can no longer unilaterally decide, for instance, increase the number of stories of a building if there's a change in FAR. Now, failure to register a project will cause the developer to attract a penalty of 10% of the overall project cost, and an additional penalty of 10% and or 3-year prison term in case of continued non-compliance. Incorrect or incomplete disclosures will attract a penalty of 5% of the project cost. Project cancellation has been stated as a possibility in case of continued non-compliance. But all of this sounds very good on paper. This is definitely a sector that was crying out for transparency, but this bill doesn't seem to have the potential to break the alleged Babu builder nexus. Why has the centre, the state government and the local authorities not been held accountable at all? So the consumer suffers yet again from project delays. Let's say if the government, either the state level or the central level, does not provide clearances on time, builders will obviously pass on the buck. So once again, don't forget to email your views on the regulator to the Rajya Sabha Select Panel. Have you ever heard of something like development rights or FSI being traded on a stock exchange? Well, my colleague Alexander Matthew reports this is the brainchild of the Maharashtra government. He's joining us now. Alex, what's all this about?
Yes, Nayanthara, that's exactly what the Devendra Fadnavis government is proposing in the draft of its housing policy for the state. But first, for our viewers outside Maharashtra, let's go through a quick tutorial on transferable development rights, or TDR, because that's what Fadnavis wants listed on public exchanges.
A TDR is a certificate given by the government to a private landowner or developer as compensation for land or for activities like slum rehabilitation. The TDR allows the developer to build more than the specified floor space index in another location, or if the developer so chooses, it can also be sold to another party. Here's an example. Imagine that a developer has surrendered land to the government in Mankurd. In exchange for that land, the builder receives TDR that can be used in another project, say in Bandra, or can even be sold to another developer. In effect, if a builder buys TDR from the market, that is from another builder, that will be factored into the ultimate price of the apartment.
The market for TDR has been functioning for quite a while now. In fact, developers like HDIL and DB Realty have been very successfully trading the instrument. In the draft of its housing policy for the state, the Maharashtra government proposes to use TDRs for all transactions. To that end, in order to make it a more popular instrument, the Maharashtra government is toying with the idea of dematerializing it and listing it on public exchanges.
Experts say the demat form of TDRs would go a long way in bringing in transparency and will prevent hoarding of such rights by a few developers. Besides digitizing TDRs, the government is proposing several other steps. One such proposal is the indexation of TDR by linking it to the ready reckoner rates. Remember, the ready reckoner is the minimum price at which a property transfer must take place. It is revised every year. The proposal suggests that TDR be indexed, which means that if one TDR is generated in an area where prices are 5,000 rupees a square foot, a builder can only load half of that TDR in an area where prices are 10,000 rupees a square foot.
Dematerialization and public listing would open the TDR market up to retail investors. On the face of it, broadening and deepening the market for TDR is positive. The more the players in a market, the less the chances of cartelization. Additionally, dematerialization would create a clear record of the supply of the instrument available.
So as soon as this happens, there's going to be immense amount of transparency of who owns how much TDR, and that will become information of public domain. That will be one big thing in terms of people not camouflaging the extent of the TDR which they hold to just restrict the supply and create artificial demand in the real estate space. And as soon as everybody knows what's the extent of TDR available, then the supply of real estate or constructed space can be extrapolated and price can be discovered.
So the creation of a database and retail participation will derive the fair value of TDR. So theoretically, it would be a better mechanism of pricing of TDR than the one existing today.
So there are clear benefits to the listing of TDR, but there are also major drawbacks. First and foremost, the Maharashtra government will have to figure out a way to encourage participation from retail investors. Since TDR is only going to be restricted to Maharashtra, how and why should a retail investor in the rest of the country invest in such an instrument? Also, why should qualified institutional buyers choose TDRs over real estate stocks?
Only thing is its exchange or ability to be traded or to be bought or sold by a small investor is what I am perhaps trying to read, if it is to go through SEBI and made available in some kind of an exchange. That is the only thing, but that is something which I will not be very comfortable with straight away, because real estate is a complex matter. And that actually can have an impact on consumers also if you are allowing this complex a matter to be available to small investors. Enough of checks and balances are to be put in place before it is actually made public.
Experts say that retail investors are likely to be wary of investing in an instrument as complicated as TDR. Also, it is difficult to imagine SEBI playing ball.
The dematerialization of TDR would be a big positive, though extremely challenging to implement. The state government should focus on doing that first, rather than getting distracted by convincing the SEBI to allow trading of the instrument when it isn't even in digital form yet. In Mumbai, Alexander Matthew.
And Alex will be back on Prime Property to tell us how quickly or slowly the Maharashtra government moves on digitizing TDRs. We're going to slip into a short break. On the other side, we'll head down south to Chennai. Builders are buying defunct mills, factories, industrial land, you name it, all to make luxury housing. Stay tuned.